Well, first, and I think the most important is understanding who influenced the concept PR, who influenced the concept of consumism. Mostly in US, I'm going to talk about most of the cases are going to be US driven. That most are all the cases here in Shenzhen. That's the biggest market and biggest consumers' behavior in global. So the most important influencers are. I want to start with Sigmund Freud. Do you know who Sigmund Freud is?
This guy.
Sigmund Freud. Okay, well,
I think I've heard uh, everyone knows him, everyone heard of him, but what did he like? What was his accomplishment? Like, what did he do?
well, he is a psychiatrist, a psychoanalyst, who is famous for the theories of the unconscious mind. What does that mean? Do you know that normally this what we're having is being driven by our conscious mind? We are aware that this conversation is happening, but way deeper in our brains, there are many other elements going around. For example, I can see the lights, I can see the image, even though when I'm not focusing on it on my conscious, I know my subconscious is still focusing on that, letting me know that there is an image of a guy there next that I have on my periphery. So, and it can go way deeper, understanding more of your past, your history, things that happened in the past that protects your brain to events to let you know how to behave and how to react and who you are as a person now. So he is the one who study the unconscious mind and the one who brings terminologies to understand why certain problems happen, why people have some issues, and how to solve them. So he's the father.
He was like the first one for back then, before the world wars, and to see what's going on in Germany, how the Nazis can take over, and how is that possible? Like, he believed it's not because the people in itself are, or the Germans as particular as a folk are an evil folk. It's more that every person has that hidden inside of them. Like, every person can be triggered towards certain actions. So he didn't talk about marketing or anything like that. It was just like the first time someone looked into psychology and the first time someone revealed that there are forces that we cannot control that control us.
Yes.
Right? Or that we don't understand that control us.
Correct. And I want to give an example of one of to keep it simple because it can go very very deep. But let's say that he bring this concept of your mind is an iceberg. You know, an iceberg is a piece of ice in the ocean that normally shows around 10% above. This is the one that you can see, but below there is a huge part of it that is the 90% of the rest of the iceberg. So he identified our mind as that, being the conscious mind, the top of it, and the unconscious being the rest, being the most important.
That's a great example.
So it goes deep into understanding what actually happened in our early years because those are the most important learning lessons we get from our parents, from our childhood, and experiences that happen there. And those are the ones that forge us as human beings, who we are. And he studied those as the main pillar of the humankind. So there are many points, many ideas to go deep into that. I don't want to go into psychology, but it's important to note. Then give you some examples. For example, there is something very important Freud said that are dreams. When you have a dream about something, that is a connector from your conscious and unconscious telling you that is something there that you should pay attention to, that you should be aware of, that you want. For example, there is a dream about a problem that you have, that something in the brand happening, one of your colleagues or employees are having a problem with, and that's something that your brain on the subconscious level is telling you to pay attention to. And sometimes it's not that clear, but it reflects in a different ways on a different elements. So that's a very important.
It's like sometimes when you're facing the problem and you're dealing with it, but you don't find the solution, then all of a sudden in the shower or somehow it's like from the back of the mind, it's like boop, you have this thought. It's like, I think this is the solution, and then it just comes, right? So it's kind of like is that the back of the mind, like
Is
working?
that the back of the mind working? Another example is called like a slip of the tongue, or what the terminology is the Freudian slip. What that means is that sometimes you call somebody a different name when you have a different. For example, when you were a kid, and your teacher, because you are all the time with her, normally is a female, when you're with her all the time, and sometimes like, hey mom,
Yeah.
is because
When you're dead, like that's your school life is over for that year. Like,
but it's a very common event happening.
my parents always call me when we're with my uncle. My uncle's name is Christoph, and every time we're together for like the next week, they keep calling me Christoph. Every time they look at me, it's like, Christoph, can you come here? It's like, no, I cannot. Like they always, it's so crazy every time.
Yeah, and that's the Freudian sleep. That means that is your subconscious talking. Is the connection with the conscious saying like, oh, there is something that we identify with that we consider valuable, so then we should be thinking about it. In this case of the teacher, identifying your mom as your teacher as your mom, because you're all the time with her and she's a maternal entity in your life. There is another one like phobias. People that have fears of crazy phobia or fear of spiders, but you don't know why. And the moment that you see a spider, you get all freaked out, and that's because in your childhood you had an event that was very traumatic involving spiders, but your brain blocks. And you don't remember because that's the defense mechanism we have in our subconscious mind, but it still reflects into that fear, letting you know that you should be aware of spiders.
My wife has a phobia of birds, like bad. And one day we were talking, and she's like, I think maybe it could be. I'm not sure. Just maybe this is the reason for it. When she was like 3 years old, her mom put her in a chicken coop to run around with the chickens, and the chickens are like as big as her, and the chickens were chasing her, and she was running away from the chickens, but she was in the coop, so she couldn't get out of the scene. It's like maybe it has something to do with it, but I'm not sure. Like I don't really know.
I'm not a psychologist, but but I have some connections there. And the last one is like reactions and feelings towards different people. That surprisingly you met somebody, but you have a bad feeling about that person, is because it's also your subconscious telling you, protecting you, because that person have some face traits from somebody that hurt you in the past, or a certain way of speaking like the person who hurt you in the past, and you don't know, you never met this person, it's the first time that you engage with them, and you should not have any feelings, but it's your subconscious mind telling you there's something off here. So pay attention.
And Freud was the first one who pointed that out, right? Because before that was not known, or that was not even considered, right? So he was the first one who actually
who made it famous,
yes.
Yeah. Who made it available for all of us, for normal population that are neuropsychologists or psychiatrists. So yeah, and that's very important, and I bring that up because it's very connected to the second influential person that I consider the most powerful human in marketing, in public relations, and what we all know as marketing is Edward Bernays. That is the nephew of Sigmund Freud. This Edward burning 1891, not so old. He died in 1995, and he's famous because of he's called as the father of public relations. Long story short, he learned everything from his uncle. He really understood psychoanalysis. He understood the unconscious mind, and he was a publicist. He was a copywriter. He was born in Austria, and he came to U.S. very early age. He was like famous family, Jewish family who raised him great education, but he turns to be a copywriter, a publicist in New York, and he little by little start getting familiar with high brands, big brands in US, with the politics. He was a great copywriter, and because he understood the psychoanalyst, he started getting into the propaganda party for the U.S. government for the First World War. So what he brought to the party, why he was influential, is because he knew how powerful the message and the ideas that the government could bring to the public, and how effective were those, and how much these could influence people, is as powerful as the bullets that were shot in the war. Mm-hmm. How is this connected to branding and everything? This is how he learned from the French. He went to France in the World War One to understand a little bit more as a U.S. Part of the political party to support, and he learned a lot from the French propaganda. Mm-hmm. The government, what is propaganda? Propaganda is the message and communication that the government sends to the people to help, keep everyone in line, organize.
Get everyone to behave a certain way.
Everyone to behave a certain way, like let's support each other, and that's why French is so nationalist. Mm-hmm. They are very proud of being French because the government made a really good job with their propaganda, letting them know that we are better, we are the best, and this is something that Bernays really understood. But no. When he comes back, the World War One was already over, and he had all this knowledge in his head. It's like, okay, so what we do with this?
Yes.
Like,
there's no war. How do we do?
There is no war. Like, what should we do with this? And well, what he did is start getting more and more connected to corporations in US. Back then, US, it was not the big consumism, the big like how to call it?
Like people bought what they needed, right?
Yeah, it was very basic. It was like the rest of the world, basically. Like for example, in my country, in Venezuela, we just eat what we need. We never consume extra of what we have to. But back then, Bernays was because he was so good at sending the right message to the right person. Learn from all these psychoanalysts and understanding the conscious mind as human beings. Then he understood that it's not just the products, it's not just the brands, it's about what we actually need as humans, what our unconscious mind is asking us for. So,
the conscious mind is like, I only need this much food, I only need this much clothing, I only need this much things for leisure. And then the unconscious mind is like, oh, but I feel like I would love to have this thing, and I would love to eat this too, and I would love to have this clothes, and I would love to, right? Not knowing why, but it's just the feeling part that comes out, right?
Correct. So, let me tell you a little bit of what he's known for. Let me tell you a couple of his campaigns and how I met him. I know from him after studying at university and checking a couple of documentaries. He became my idol. I just idolize him. I understood what he tried to say. People like put it on a bad place, saying that he's the one who made America or US like this evil consumism, big machine corporation. But I believe that he did a really powerful
he had a big
change for all human society. So I really want to bring this up to you.
And his origin was like, how do we take all these lessons and how do we make money with that?
Yes.
Right? Like, how can companies use the same principle to actually turn that into dollars? Like, how do we make more money? Right.
Like, let me give you the best example of Bernays applying all these psychoanalysis and unconscious mind and to turn this into money. So back then he was working. He was not so famous back then, but through connections and public relations and getting together with high society, high class, he started working with Lucky Strikes, the cigarettes, like and the tobacco company in general. He was working. He started working with Lucky Strike when back then the sales were extremely good, but because it was 1950s, 1920s, there was a gap in the market. They wanted to grow. They needed more sales, and they hired Bernays with the problem of, look, we have this issue. We want to get more sales. How can you help us? Bernays back then started doing an analysis of the market, understanding what are the barriers, and he understood that back then female or women are allowed to smoke at home, but was not good to see them smoking on the street.
It was more like this, right? The guy was smoking, and then the women was drawn to the guys because it's a sign of power.
Correct.
Right?
But so the big problem that he found is that the first issue is that women are not smoking. So that's the first problem. What he understood is like, okay, now the solution is like how we make smoking okay or even good for women.
Yeah, because all the men are already smoking.
All the men are already smoking.
We saturated the market.
Marlboro and all the other brands are fighting for the market. So now it's a red ocean strategy. Now they're fighting. So how can we make this different? And because as a whole society, women are not allowed to smoke. This is the way that Bernays attacked the problem as a whole.
It's not that they were forbidden by law. It's just
culturally was not okay to see people smoking. So
yes,
that was the first problem. So the second problem is now the second step is to actually understand what women want, because they don't want to smoke as well. Like it's not they don't wanna smoke. This
what
is
a challenge. Let's find out what women want.
So what is the process that Bernays uses to overcome this problem?
Yeah.
He applied his uncle's strategies. He applies some focus groups that it means bring a lot of females from different ethnicities, from different locations in US, and to start doing group psychoanalysis. Understand what are their deepest desires, their deepest fears, what they actually wanted. Well, it turns out that after doing thousands and thousands of analysis on women, they understood that what they actually wanted is to be the same as men. Because back then, women were not seen as equal as men. Men is the one that provides, that brings the value to home, but females are the ones that take care of the house, the kids, so therefore they don't have a same value as status as the male. And after understanding that, Bernays connects these 2 points. Now we need to attack the market of women, and now we understand that female wants to be in the same status as men. So how we connect these to the cigarettes?
And he found that out by like interviewing
and talking to thousands of women using psychoanalyst techniques to really understand what their unconscious mind are wanting. So in one of these questionnaires, in one of these interviews, it turns out that one of his colleagues that was interviewing the female said, look, they want to feel free. They want to feel connected. They feel constrained by the male. So they want to feel free. And for some reason, in one of the conversations, it's like, you see that even the American Liberty, like the Statue of Liberty in New York, is carrying a torch, and she represents freedom. So why don't we use this slogan or this token or this icon as the leadership of this campaign? Because why? It brings so many points together. Now we understand that women is the target we wanna target, the avatar.
And the statue is a woman.
Yes, the statue is a woman. Now they want to feel the same as men and feel free. So what the Statue of Liberty represents is freedom. So we have 2 points together. And she's carrying a torch that represents freedom. So how we connect these to cigarettes? Turns out that Bernays comes with the idea of why don't we let women smoke cigarettes and represents torch of freedom, represents freedom like the Statue of Liberty. So that became the slogan of the campaign. And this one became the main driver and message for changing the cultural behavior to let women feel free and be equal to men. Now we're satisfying the unconscious mind connected to the product. So this is a master technique. So now we identify the problem. Now we understand our audience. Now we know how to connect their internal desires to the product. That this is a very difficult task. So now how we make it happen? So Bernays, with his knowledge and understanding of how human works, and about he was a PR expert, and he understands the media very well in New York. So he knew that in Easter, I don't remember which name, but an Easter parade in New York, super big event. He already knew the major media that was going to be there, featuring the parade, New York Times, all the biggest newspapers. So he already fed them with some comments.
Like some hints, right?
Some hints. There is going to be a group of activists, female, that turns out that they're saying they represent freedom, saying that represent the torch of freedom is something that is going to change the behavior of bringing women and men, revolution. This is going to be, so he fed them up with some ideas that turns out that they're going to be in this parade, and they were already ready for it. And all of this was orchestrated by Bernays, step by step, telling them exactly what to do, what to wear, what to say, what chants to go again on the march. Where it turns out that there are 10 really famous activists, female activists representing female power and equality, where they were dressing very sexy and wearing the cigarettes, Lucky Strikes, on their thighs. And while they're chanting Torch of Freedoms, they're smoking the cigarettes in front of everyone, going against society, sharing that value that represents that women are as strong as men. We are as strong as men. Torch of freedom, torch of freedom. This sticks in people's mind in that event. And all the media
they come rushing in.
Because this is a very newsworthy event in the year. Turns out that this becomes viral. This turns out to be a message that resonates with the readers because he understood what women actually wanted.
Right.
And
they
even
want the
Mel.
Freedom, so it resonates with the freedom. It's not like, it's not just a product placement. It's not like smoke Lucky Strike, smoke Lucky Strike. You know, it's like, it's this connection to what people actually want and the desire that they actually have. And I think that's why it's so important for people to really understand with their own brands, with all of the things that we do, what do people actually really want, right? And that's so hard to figure out.
So hard. And well, after this happens, the message was well received by the whole American society, and turns out that it became viral. All newspaper next day were having in the first cover Torch of Freedom, carrying Lucky Strikes brand. That the one made the sales skyrocket, and not just that, it changed society.
It opened the industry, right?
It opened the industry. It really changed the way that people see cigarettes. It really changed the way that women felt towards men. So it was a very strong step, I believe, in American society. And all of this because of Bernays. Uh, so this is how powerful the right message and the right analysis and understanding your avatar and your people for your brand can go to.